My Licorice is Alive with Charlie Parker's iconic bebop masterpiece, Confirmation. First recorded in 1945 on Lala's Dial Records by Dizzy Gillespie, this tune in all its harmonic complexity announced the dawn of a new age in music. Lyrical in its melody and lightning-like in its rhythms, the Confirmation chord changes can challenge even the best improviser. Yep, folks, when someone calls confirmation at a jam session, you better have your you-know-what together before you jump in, because the Yardbird will expose you and send you home for another month of woodshedding, which is bebop speak for jazz quarantine, and by that I mean, practice. Anyway, that was my version, recorded just this morning with my trusty tracks providing backup. Hope you dug. Welcome, friends, subscribers, and countrymen, to another installment of Rebel Without Applause, coming to you from this, my nutshell of infinite space. By that I mean my television studio apartment located right here inside the fabled former theosophical retreat known as Crotona, which was established right here in 1912 in this, the wood of my holly, under the sign that overlooks the post-apocalyptic, COVID-addled, and protest-scarred land of law. And folks, from my perch here in Crotona, the ghosts of silent screen stars, new age seekers, and forgotten literary luminaries that once lived and frolicked right here, why, those ghosts still lurk in these shadows. I can feel them even as I speak right now. And speaking of movie stars, last night I was watching my Lifeline. By that I mean Turner Classic Movies, sorry. I'm not a Netflix or a Hulu dude. You won't find me surfing the on-demand lists on Amazon Prime or binge-watching Season 3 of The Wire, mainly because I didn't watch Season 1 or 2. Nope, that ain't me. Call me a Luddite if you must. Yes, I know, I'm a dinosaur bound for extinction. Sorry, folks, but I dig the old stuff. And when I mean old stuff, I mean movies. Remember those? They came in metal cans, were wound into spools, and were printed on celluloid coated in emulsion and fused with silver nitrate and perforated on the edges with sprocket holes, which got fed into crazy-looking machines called projectors, which tossed moving images onto a screen that was usually silver. In case you forgot, those spools of celluloid were pretty much a staple of entertainment around the world for the last 100 years or so, until two asteroids, one called the Internet and the other called Netflix, crashed into the wood of my holly and blasted my beloved cinema gods into hiding. And after that, a killer virus scattered those same cinema gods into oblivion. For those of you who may have already forgotten, those things called movies were generally 2-hour journeys with beginning, middles, and ends. You can still watch them if you know where to look, but last I heard they weren't making them anymore. But if you get a chance, check out the movie I wrote and directed. It's called The Solar Opposite. It has a beginning, middle, and an end, and you can download it anywhere except from the offices of that killer Death Star down the street on Sunset Boulevard. By that I mean Netflix. Okay, where was I? Oh, yes. Another lonely Saturday night by myself in my television studio apartment. I just finished performing another installment of my jazz show, Licorice Live, on Facebook, which you are welcome to check out, and I was watching probably the greatest journalism movie of all time, All the President's Men. And a few things hit me. First, Redford's performance was exquisite, so understated, so real. Forget that he's incredibly handsome and so quietly charismatic. Those things are ultimately a distraction from a real talent at work. When you watch Redford do his turn as the young reporter Bob Woodward, what you are really seeing is a master movie actor at work. No cliches, no unreal mannerisms. What you see is a real journalist trying to figure out a real conspiracy in real time. A conspiracy that was, at its inception, clouded in mystery and misdirection. You really see Redford work through that puzzle in real time. With a bowl full of melting ice cream, I watched, riveted, as Redford assembled the picture that was Richard Nixon's Watergate. It's moment by moment acting at its best. Every discovery is earned, every connection is worked through. You see him considering, discarding, and connecting ideas while the film is moving inside the camera. This is the greatest challenge for any actor, and Redford does it with ease and aplomb, all of which proves one of my main axioms of acting for the cinema, and that is real thought communicates. The action of thinking is no less real than the physical action of running or chasing or shooting, whatever. Anyway, Redford does it brilliantly. Way to go, Bob. The second thing that struck me was the dimensions of the Watergate conspiracy itself. How quaint and almost petty it seemed in light of the current occupant of rent-free housing at 1600 Pennsylvania. You see, Nixon lived in the shadows. He flourished in the dark spaces. That's where he did his dirtiest of deeds. But the PVP, by that I mean Putin's vice president, his crimes take place under the brightest of lights. They happen in front of our eyes. They happen while the cameras are focused and trained on the bloviated, red-headed imbecile. He's so obvious in his evil, so plain in his intent. He's like a nuclear-addled creature out of a Japanese monster movie. He's a soulless psychopath on the loose, and I do my best, folks, to take comfort in the knowledge that all monsters are eventually defeated, battered, and beaten. They ultimately submerge themselves back into the watery depths from which they came, or they retreat back into the infinity that is outer space. Well, at least they do in the movies. Oh, but I forgot. They don't make movies anymore, just limited series. Yikes. That's depressing. Because, like the song says, nowadays, there's no business in show business. Anyway, while I was watching all the president's men, the PVP and his men touched down in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where he willfully and knowingly put thousands of people at mortal risk. A mortal risk that we know will, without a doubt, result in sickness, misery, and death. In the service of what? In the service of an all-consuming, soulless pit of human avarice. What we witnessed Saturday night in Tulsa and 2 days later in Phoenix was nothing less than a war crime. Think Mengele or Goebbels. Think Milosevic or Saddam Hussein. This was a crime that took place not in the shadows, but a crime that took place before our very eyes. Like the murder of George Floyd in front of the cameras, recorded for posterity by CNN, MSNBC, Fox, and the rest of them. Let there be no doubt. The dangers were clear, the risks were obvious, and the results predictable. This virus spread silently on the invisible chariot of human breath. This virus relishes in closed spaces that are jammed shoulder to shoulder with happy, ignorant humans. If you are a Co-19 this offers up the happiest of hunting grounds. Talk about shooting fish in a barrel. And so the billionaire brat beast arrived Saturday night in Tulsa for his feeding, and the beast was hungry. No, not hungry. That word is too mild. The beast was ravenous, salivating for the smiles and applause and laughter to fill the bottomless pit of his vacant self. The cost in life, the cost in health, no matter. Just feed the beast. Yep. Donny Covid-Seed entered the arena ready, willing, and able to spray the virus to an orchard of fresh victims. If a few rednecks die, who cares? If they infect their parents and grandparents and friends and neighbors, who gives a fuck? Any Confederate general worth his salt knows you can't fight a war without casualties. Besides, Oklahoma is redder than the blood spilled on Black Wall Street 100 years ago. In 2016, Donny Covid-Seed won Oklahoma by 20 points, so thanks to the good graces of the Electoral College, Donny Covid-Seed can afford to kill a few foot soldiers. After all, those Confederate goofballs in red hats are just cannon fodder. They died at Gettysburg, they died at Chancellorsville and Chickamauga by the boatload. We can afford to kill a few in Tulsa, or Arizona for that matter. It's just the price of doing business. And business it was Saturday night in Tulsa. Donny Covid-Seed touched down in his little corner of Hicktopia, by that I mean Oklahoma, and lumbered to the stage and went into his act. It was a tired act, an act that so many had seen before. Like a washed-up Catskill comic, his punchlines missed their mark. As is his custom, he hit on his tired and familiar themes. First and foremost, he defended his beloved Confederate statues. You know, those silent sentinels. You can see them everywhere, in the town square, the shaded park, beside the cemetery, guarding the courthouse and the county seat. Stonewall and Lee, Longstreet and Pickett, Stewart and Forrest, spurred and saddled, grim and determined, their sabers rusted, cleave still the southern sky. The vacant-eyed dead boys of bronze, their rifles angled forward, their cannon and their caissons standing still, poised to defend the cause that was lost and the hate that still lives. And so, folks, the beast came to feed, and the virus came to seed. But sadly for the beast, there was nothing in his trough. Okay, a few morsels, but not nearly enough to satisfy, just enough to tease and irritate. The cameras told the story. The rednecks and red hats in the red state that the red-headed super spreader-in-chief came to feed on didn't show up, at least not in the numbers expected and advertised. Or if they did, they were all disguised as blue chairs. The few that did show up, hoping to lay their eyes on their fave American president since Jefferson Davis, well, fittingly, those folks looked like Lee's army at Appomattox, bewildered, confused, lonely, and beaten. And for Donny Covid-Seed, his beast did not get fed. It only got irritated and agitated. But you can bet your last dollar, with each cheer, with each rebel yell, those Co-19 BBs found fresh hosts in the lungs of their fellow Confederates. And so it goes. Keep the faith, my friends. The day of reckoning for the super spreader in chief is coming, and when that day comes, it will go down in history. Maybe we'll call it Novemteenth. Novemteenth. Kind of like the sound of it. A new day of liberation. The fresh COVID-free wind of freedom. It's coming, folks. I feel it. It's coming. Hang in there. Till next time, namaste, shalom, and aloha. Namashaloha.